In 1952, a researcher made a discovery so uncomfortable that the scientific community ignored it for 30 years. He found that the thing stopping most people from changing their lives doesn't actually exist. And right now, today, it might be running your entire life without your permission. There's a moment most people know, but almost nobody talks about. You have a decision in front of you, a job application, a conversation you need to have, a business idea that keeps showing up in your mind at 2 a.m., and you don't do it. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because somewhere in your mind, a quiet, very convincing voice says, "Not yet. You're not ready." That voice feels like wisdom. It feels like self-awareness. It feels like the reasonable, mature thing to listen to. But here's what that 1952 researcher found, and what decades of behavioral science has since confirmed. That voice is not protecting you. It's freezing you. And the thing it keeps telling you to prepare for? In most cases, it will never arrive the way you imagined. Today, I want to show you exactly how this freeze mechanism works in your brain, why it's been getting stronger every year of your life, and, most importantly, the specific shift that breaks it permanently. But first, I need to tell you about a chess player. In the 1990s, psychologists studied elite chess grandmasters to understand how they made decisions under pressure. What they found was shocking. The grandmasters didn't calculate more possibilities than average players. They actually calculated fewer. Average players would spiral, running through dozens of possible moves, counter-moves, counter-counter-moves. They were paralyzed by trying to see every outcome. The grandmasters? They recognized the current pattern on the board, trusted their training, and moved. They weren't smarter. They were lighter in their thinking. Now here's the part nobody talks about. The researchers then asked the grandmasters what they did when they encountered a board pattern they had never seen before. Every single one of them said the same thing. I make the best move I can see right now, and then I respond to what happens next. They didn't try to solve the game in their head before moving a piece. And yet, you and I do this every single day with our actual lives. We try to solve the entire game before we make the first move. Let me say something that might be hard to hear. The version of you that is not ready yet is not becoming more ready over time. In fact, and this is backed by research on what psychologists call decision fatigue, the longer you delay a decision while actively thinking about it, the worse your eventual decision-making becomes. Waiting doesn't sharpen you. Waiting drains you. Every day you spend in the almost ready stage costs you something real. Confidence erodes. The window shifts. The market moves. The moment passes. And here's the cruelest part. When the moment is gone, your brain will tell you it just wasn't the right time anyway. It will feel like wisdom in retrospect. But it was just fear with good vocabulary. That 1952 researcher I mentioned at the beginning, his name was Solomon Asch. He wasn't studying procrastination. He was studying conformity. But buried inside his findings was something that later researchers built entire careers around. Human beings are wired, at a neurological level, to overestimate social and future risk. Our brains evolved in environments where a wrong move could mean death, ostracism from the tribe, a predator around a blind corner. So we developed a threat detection system that is extraordinarily sensitive. The problem is, that system cannot tell the difference between a hungry lion and a job interview. To your nervous system, sending a cold email to a potential client feels almost identical to stepping into danger. The cortisol spikes. The heartbeat rises. The mind floods with what-ifs. And your brain, trying to protect you, tells you to wait. To gather more information. To prepare more. To be certain before you move. But certainty is not a destination you arrive at. Certainty is a story we tell ourselves to justify standing still. I want to introduce you to a concept called the threshold illusion. The threshold illusion is this. You believe there is a specific point in the future, a moment of sufficient readiness, after which action will feel natural and risk will feel acceptable. You are waiting for that threshold. But here's what's actually happening. Every time you almost take action and pull back, your brain registers that pullback as a success, as safety, as the right call, and it lowers the threshold for pulling back next time. In other words, every time you say not yet becomes easier to say. You're not getting more ready. You are getting more comfortable with retreat, the threshold you're waiting to cross. You are actively walking away from it with every passing week. This is why people who have been about to start for 2 years are often less likely to start than someone who just had the idea yesterday. The fresh person has energy and naivety on their side. The almost person has 2 years of sophisticated reasons not to move. There's a woman named Sarah Blakely. You might know her as the founder of Spanx, now a billionaire. In interviews, she talks about how her father used to ask her a question at the dinner table every single week when she was growing up. He didn't ask, "What did you accomplish this week?" He asked, "What did you fail at this week?" And if she had nothing to report, he was disappointed. Because in that household, failure meant you tried something. It meant you were in motion. No failure meant you were standing still. She says that reframe, that failure is data, not disaster, is the single biggest reason she was able to launch a product she knew almost nothing about into an industry she had never worked in, at a time when she had no guarantee of success. She didn't wait until she understood manufacturing. She didn't wait until she had investors. She didn't wait until the product was perfect. She moved. She hit problems. She solved them then. Here's what actually happens in your brain when you take action before you feel ready. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, reasoning, and calm decision-making, is suppressed when you're anxious or fearful. This is why overthinking a problem rarely solves it. Fear literally impairs your best thinking. But here's what's fascinating. Action reverses this. The moment you begin moving, even imperfect movement, even a small first step, your brain begins to shift out of threat mode. Psychologists call this behavioral activation. The doing creates the calm, not the other way around. You have been waiting to feel ready so you can act. But your brain is actually designed so that acting makes you feel ready. You have the sequence backwards. Confidence is not the cause of action. Confidence is the byproduct of action. Every person you've ever admired for their boldness, they didn't feel certain first. They felt afraid, and they moved anyway, and the movement itself created the feeling you admire from a distance. So what do you actually do with this? Not a motivational speech. A practical recalibration. Separate the real from the rehearsed. Take whatever you've been delaying. Write down every reason you're not ready. Every risk. Every what if. Then ask yourself, which of these problems exists today, right now, in the physical world? Not in the future. Not in theory. Today. You'll find that most of your reasons are rehearsals of disasters that have not happened and may never happen. Those are not reasons. Those are anxiety wearing a costume. Shrink the question. Stop asking, am I ready to do this entire thing? Ask only, what is the smallest version of this I could do in the next 48 hours? Not the business plan. One conversation. Not the book. One paragraph. Not the transformation. One decision. The Grandmaster doesn't win the game on the first move. He just makes a good first move. Redefine what ready means. Ready does not mean certain of success. Ready means, I know enough to take the next step and figure out the rest when I get there. That's it. That is the entire bar. If you know enough to take the next step, you are ready. Here's what I want you to sit with. Somewhere in your life right now, there is a version of you that is waiting. Waiting for the economy to stabilize. Waiting to lose 10 more pounds. Waiting to finish one more course. Waiting for someone to give you permission. That version of you is not being cautious. They are slowly disappearing. Because time doesn't wait with you. The window you're looking at? It's moving. And the most painful thing, the thing people only realize in hindsight, is that they were always capable. They always had enough. They always knew enough. They just didn't trust themselves to handle what they couldn't yet see. You don't need a perfect map. You need to take one step in the right direction and trust that you are the kind of person who figures things out. Because here's the truth that took a long time to understand. The most prepared version of you is not the one who waited. It's the one who went, got tested, failed forward, and came back wiser. That version is not waiting in the future. That version is built in motion. Start moving.